Sweating in a bear suit. Sweating in a bear suit. I am sweating in a bear suit. Sweating in a bear suit and having lots of fun with my sweat.
Hello, and welcome to Sweating in a Bear Suit, the podcast without a strapline. Except we do have a strapline today, because Steph's made another one up. Steph, what's our strapline?
My never-ending mission to pitch you a strapline for this podcast. I've put some effort into this one because the last one I just pulled out of my head. All right, awesome. You ready? You ready?
Mm-hmm.
Sweating in a bear suit. It's not twerky time. It's not jerky time. It's talky time about worky time.
Yeah. Awesome. That works.
Well, gee, as we keep working with each other, I'm getting very good at reading your subtle moods, and I think I need to go back to the drawing board. However, it did include the phrase, it's not twerky time, it's not jerky time. That's a pretty high watermark for me, but I will come back with more.
It was very good. Poetry is an art of which you have far more skill than me, so I hesitate to give feedback. Great. It was good. It was good.
It was good enough.
It was good enough. We probably won't use that for moving forward, so next time we will have a different one. But it was good for today, because today we are talking about the brown paper we wrote. And the idea of the next few episodes of Sweating in a Bear Suit is that we discuss chapter by chapter the brown paper. Today's chapter is Why Read This Thing. Steph.
Would it be fair also to say that in the description of wherever you're listening to this, there will be a link to how to get the brown paper if you so choose to use your eyeballs to read information and put it into your head?
Precisely. It is a 9,999 word document that is long, informative, and interesting and entertaining. We believe in giving people information in different ways, though, and so that is why we have this podcast series within Sweating in a Bear Suit, as well as a fun audio book which you can listen to the whole thing read by Stefan in your
feed. Yeah.
It's all there. You can listen at any point. But today, that's not what we're doing. Today, we are talking about one chapter only, and that is why read this thing. So, Steph, why read this thing?
That's a great question. It is the first chapter of the brown paper, and why is a really important question when you are thinking about a new idea. And for me, this chapter is actually all about establishing what it is that we care about. And I care deeply about the fact that in my career and talking to people about work, so many people are having a terrible time at work and traumatic in the true sense of that word. And so we decided to look at that problem, like why does work not seem to be working? For me, it's a real call to action. I feel really passionate about the fact that people shouldn't have such a terrible sandpaper on your soul-like experience of showing up to work. That's my initial ramblings, G. What about you?
Awesome. I have a similar ramble. It's probably useful to share a little context about me in the work that I have done before and kind of why I've done work in the past and why this is a thing that we're putting a lot of effort and time into now. So I'm an HRE type person usually, And the thing about HR type people is it's our job to help the business and through the people in the business to be effective. How I have always approached that problem is if you support people and individuals in their work and you help them build great relationships and have a positive experience of work, then they will do better for the business. The thing about the last few years, though, is, as Steph said, the work experience people have is overwhelmingly negative. You rarely hear somebody saying, I'm having a fabulous time at work at the moment. The internet is full of people and hilarious memes talking about how terrible work is. And I think if
Yeah,
we
and
all...
gee, had you ever heard of the phrase Sunday scaries before like the last 5 years?
Not before the last 5 years, no. It wasn't
Yeah,
like
it's
people were like thrilled to go to work, as we discussed in the brown paper. Blink 182 was thinking about work sucking in the 90s or the noughties. But it just got so much worse. And you could argue that it's because the internet has changed how we interact and share experiences. But I think that's only part of it. I think there's far more about the experience of work that is terrible for people. And if you look at it kind of objectively, it shouldn't be, in that conditions are better, safer for most people. Salaries are, in the world in which we work, which is Australia as well as internationally, primarily with countries like America, in the tech world, those salaries allow people to enjoy life because they are above average usually. And so if you look at those kind of very basic conditions, it should be far better, the experience people have at work, but it's not. The interactions people have with each other are becoming traumatic. There's a huge amount of pressure on leadership and HR, which I've been both those things, to also make it better. And why we wrote this thing and why you should read this thing is because we think that in the current system, people who are currently in the job that I have previously been in, that head of HR job, are not set up to actually being able to achieve their goal of making work better if the system is broken. And we think the system is broken. And there are ways that we can shift the system and the kind of attitudes people have within it, and we can reduce the trauma that people have at work, which is just good because humans, like, life's short, man. Come on. It doesn't need to be this bad. We spend 5 days at work out of 7 days usually. And to have 5 days that are traumatic out of 7 is just not worth it in a life that only goes for a few years.
what's that you sent me a meme that was, what was it? I have this one precious, today I realized I have this one precious life to live and I'm worried about writing that email.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's just so much of that.
And I think jumping off that thought, G, why we were really passionate about writing this thing and why we're really passionate about the work that we do, for me, it stemmed from my career has been working with groups, either as a youth worker, a teacher, or working in not-for-profit sector, where you'd gather groups together and you'd work on something really important. Now, sometimes the thing we were working on was really sad. We might be dealing with like a social change problem in the world that we really want to change, or sometimes it was exciting, making a piece of theatre, or as a teacher, learning about the periodic table of elements. Now, when I was in those environments, you have to make the process of working on that task enjoyable, or people don't do it. And so I was in all of these environments where, yes, the work was hard. And it's not like the student that was coming to learn about the periodic table of elements, everyone was like, oh, I'm so excited for periodic table of elements. But we all, as a group, the students and I, had a choice about how we could approach that work that made the work as enjoyable as it could be. And also the task was getting done. And I think what shocked me is um, having seen organizations, different organizations, working on their task, and it was just not that at all. It was like watching people die a little death at 9 o'clock in the morning when they signed on to do their job, and then at 5 o'clock when they finished, suddenly they become alive again. And it made no sense to me that we were choosing to set up our work environments to be to be figuratively dead, like not, and the products that the work that was getting produced in that time, to me, was not nearly as good as what it could be if people were engaged, working together, and enjoying the difficult tasks that they were facing. And yeah, it sets a fire in my soul because I don't understand why it has to be like that, because to my mind, it doesn't.
What's interesting to me about the way work has gone in the last 10 years, say, is there has been a push to get more joy in the workplace. But the reason we wrote this is we think that it was done in a way that actually didn't help people get work done and almost exacerbated the burnout, trauma, overwork thing, because a lot of the strategies that were used, like ping pong table, and we'll make everybody have lunch together on, or go out for work drinks on a Friday night when you either probably just want to go home and have a nice time with your friends or family or somebody or by yourself, whatever. The idea was that in order to play and bring joy to work, you have to separate the task. The task was just shit and you were never going to have fun doing the task. So what we did was we brought ping pong tables in because we're like, those are fun. Go over there and do that. Rather than when I've worked in teams where we've worked on really hard problems, and HR has a lot of hard jobs. When we did those really hard jobs really well, and we gave the people who were going through hard things at work or in life a positive experience with their workplace. We were only able to do that when the HR teams I was in were having an enjoyable time. And that wasn't to say that we were laughing at a situation, but we made the work together more enjoyable. And that's my experiences with HR in tech companies. And those tech companies were doing good things for the world, but in that they were helping other people do really awesome stuff. But there are so many other companies that are also directly doing really great work that could do that work much better if people were able to have a good time while doing it. We've got diseases to cure and planets to save and all these really big problems, lives to save. And if we can do that more effectively, then the world will be a better place.
Yeah, and I think it's in what you were saying, like you say, we talk about enjoying work. And I think people confuse that with laughing and fun. Like, they are really cool things and really important, but enjoyment of work can be enjoying something that's really difficult. And to me, and this is interesting because in my background, I was also a consultant working in play. And I had clients that wanted me to come in, just like you said, do something playful and fun, but that doesn't really connect with our day-to-day. And to spoiler alert, the brown paper, we'll go into this in more detail, but the concept of play is not separate to work. It is the same as work. It's approaching the work in a playful way so it is enjoyable. So as we're getting all of that play and that enjoyment while being on task, not just because it's better for humans, and it is, but because the product you produce from that task will be better if you're doing it with enjoyment. And I think that's another B&R bonnet about the world of play, is this separation out of the two. And again, to spoiler alert the coming chapters, this comes from the mental model that we've designed, that work and play are separate. And it is a trick that has been foisted upon humanity and our concept of work, that they're two things that are entirely separate, because they are not. I feel... Sorry, can I digress a little?
Digress.
So, I am Australian of Italian background. Most people who of any culture will understand Italians' desire to have a sauce day. So it is a day where Italians get together, they buy many cases of tomatoes, they crush them, they put them in bottles, they sterilize them, and they preserve them for later. Now, if you have ever been to an Italian sauce day, it is hard, backbreaking labour. And every sauce day that I've ever been to, I have had an absolute shit ton of fun. Because when you're gathered together to do that work, everyone knows their little tasks, they're passing things on to each other, they joke with each other, there are kids running around and you get kids involved, and you produce something at the end. But there is no way that we would all continually decide to have a sauce day if we didn't also recognize that part of what we want from the sauce day is that the sauce day is fun. So that, to me, it's like a pure example of how, it's not a separate thing. It's not a nice to have. It's kind of essential when you're working on task, doing something hard, that the people doing it also find some kind of enjoyment and fulfillment while they're doing that work. So get around to sauce day.
Get around to sauce day.
Yeah.
And if you want to bring that joy from your sauce play? Sauce play?
Have you just designed a new product, G? Sauce play?
Sauce play. Right, put that one on the project management list. Yeah. If you want to... Now I've lost my train of thought. No. If you want to bring some of that sauce play to your everyday work, whatever problems you might be solving, the brown paper that we will continue to go through over the next few weeks will be a great place to get some ideas about what's a little bit broken and how we might be able to fix it. So that's it for episode Why Read This Thing, about the brown paper, work is not working, or play and the giant peach framework.
And we did our task, didn't we? We talked about why you would want to read this thing, didn't we? That's what we just did that. I think we can tick that. Yeah?
I think we achieved our mission. Yeah.
Great. Good on us.
Cool. So something else we believe in is setting expectations and boundaries. And so we will leave you with what will be on the topic next time. Next time, it is what is a brown paper. It is a whole 20 minutes worth of chat that we will have about the form in which we are discussing this awesome content.
I have much academic nerdery that I must say about that. So get ready,
Yes.
everyone.
Yes. Cool. So join us next time. Until then, thank you, everybody. Let's go make some flying cars.
Hey, good exit. Ciao. Bye. Playgrounded. That's better.